Hello, everyone. So excited to talk to you today. I love artificial intelligence. I am a huge fan, and I've been through a lot of different transitions over my career. I am a senior staff instructor at LinkedIn. Before that, I worked at Tribune Interactive, where I built a network of radio and TV websites. And I also I've worked at Tribune Interactive, where I managed large newspaper websites. I worked in the newsroom for a couple of years. After that job, I went to work for Entravision. That's where I built a network of radio and TV station sites. And so I'm very familiar with design, web building, web development, game design, and at LinkedIn, I've been doing a lot of work with artificial intelligence, obviously, and I do teach a number of classes at Technology Training. So I'm super excited to give you a little bit of tasting of what we teach and what we do today and what you can do with AI. This class is going to be a little bit about what you can do right now today with the tools that you have available at Stanford. And there are going to be some cutting edge tools that I want to show you that are going to be, I think, extremely important in the future, but there are things that you're not allowed to use yet within Stanford. But I do think that they're starting to come online every week. We get new capabilities with these tools. And just last week, I learned that you can now share Gemini projects, Gemini gems, as well as Gemini artifacts and Canvas tools within Stanford. So that's a huge win for everyone. So every week you basically get a new bonus set of skills and capabilities with these tools. Having said that, this is where you can get in contact with me after the class the easiest way. I work for LinkedIn, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn or send me an email. I understand that if you just send an email to ray@linkedin.com, it still works. When I first got there, they asked me, what do you want your email to be? And I said, I don't really want it to be R Villalobos because nobody knows how to spell that. And they said, well, what about Ray? Do you just want Ray at LinkedIn? I'm like, is that available? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, sounds good to me. Sounds good to me. So I believe I would still get it. Anyways, I'm just about everywhere at Planet of the Web. If you want to take a look at some of the courses I teach at LinkedIn, which everyone at Stanford has access to, you can go to this link right here. And I have a number of other different websites that you can take a look at if you want to learn more about AI and some of the other things that I teach. So one thing about this class, as I mentioned in this session, I'm going to be showing you a lot of things. Some of them you can use today. Some of them you are not going to be able to use today. We'll go over the things that you're allowed to do today and the things that are coming up in the future. But I want to show you how your lives are about to change in a big way with some of the newer capabilities that these tools provide. So if you want to learn more about this, make sure you check out the Gen AI Evaluation Matrix page. All these links are clickable, so you can click on that. And I'll be going over the things that you're allowed to use today and when to use what. So we'll get started with how we got here. It's only been a few years. AI has been around for a long time, but many moons ago in 2022 is when we had the chatbot moment from OpenAI. ChatGPT arrived, and it was the first time that we could have a sort of natural conversation, or at least the entire culture was allowed to have a natural conversation with artificial intelligence. A lot of people loved it, and it became a great tool that in a way replaced search engines by giving you the ability of asking great questions and getting fantastic answers from artificial intelligence. In 2023, that grew to include the ability to for the tools to understand, have vision capability so that they could understand images as well as generate images, audio, video. And that became, instead of just being a chatbot, the tools became multimodal models that can understand as well as generate a number of different types of files. Then in 2024, we started to get the beginnings of what we have today, which is reasoning architectures and computer use, which is the ability of these tools to actually drive a virtual computer to perform real tasks. We started to get different kinds of models that were able to reason and also split the work into a mixture of experts architecture. And Claude is the first sort of tool that shipped something called computer use, which is really critical to how we do things today. In 2025, we started to get agentic and hybrid models. So the AIs were able to not just answer questions, but start to do some of the work for you by being able to take actions through the use of tools. In addition to answering questions, they were able to actually use tools to fire up browsers, to take care of tasks, to handle data science type questions. And the models grew in capabilities to include, instead of just functioning by either splitting the answers into fast or reasoning answers, they began to be able to handle, a variable sort of architecture where they could answer questions fast or think about, how they would take care of a topic. Today, we basically have an agentic ecosystem, although not everybody has this quite yet. Basically, the tool use is now being done at scale to where the tools can pretty much take over your computers or take over your browsers, take over your applications, and can do work for you in a meaningful way by, creating a series of steps that takes care of things. And so those are some of the things that we're going to explore. Some of it you're not going to be able to do today, but it's coming really, really fast. And I'll show you some examples of some of the things that you can already do depending on the type of accounts that you're using. Basically, what we have now is the tools having an operating system. The operating system can run any program that your machine can handle through something like Cloud Cowork or Codex. You can basically tell those tools to reorganize your folders, to run particular applications, create automations, and do just about anything on your computer that a normal human would be able to do. And they're getting better at doing those things. We have also the ability to connect to external data sets, and that is being handled through something called MCP, the Model Context Protocol, which gives you the ability to have external connections that are meaningful and are able to allow you to perform real work in a way that we haven't been able to see before. For me as a developer, we had this moment at the end of last year in December where we all usually take a break at the end of the year. And at that time, all the developers went and, as they normally do when they have a break, is they program something, right? And we all program something. And we have what I call the Gary Kasparov moment, where we realize that all of a sudden computers are just better at coding than human beings. Uh, just like in the old days, we found like back in the 70s, I think, Gary Kasparov was a chess master, and he finally got to the moment that we could no longer beat the computers, right? So today, all developers realized that in about December of last year. I don't think that we have seen that in the world of work quite yet, but it is coming. The time is coming where we're going to realize that there's a lot of things that humans have been doing, especially when it comes to repetitive work, that computers can do better. And what that did to developers was um, you know, not really get rid of developers, but make them more important and make them busier than ever. Developers are making really good money now as they learn to sort of offload some of the things that were taking them a long time into some of these systems, which is a really exciting thing. And you know, um, I don't think that the future is going to be people not doing anything. I think we're going to be busier than ever. And it's a really exciting time. So hopefully I'll be able to show you some of that. Now, here is some of the tools that people use at Stanford. I'm going to go into in the
And then
next
next,
slide what specifically you're allowed to use for which tasks. But overall, these are the things that people are using sometimes at Stanford. We have the Stanford AI Playground, a very basic tool that allows you to use a multiple set of models. So you have older versions of OpenAI tools, Google, Anthropic, DeepSeek, basic memory, web access, and artifacts. In terms of tooling, you also are approved for some usage internally of Stanford data. A lot of people use ChatGPT. It's by far the most popular tool out there. Absolutely, by far, ChatGPT does the best job at working with memory. So it can remember what you've done with ChatGPT in the past. It can also remember anything within a project that you're working on. So sometimes you'll ask it a question and it will remember that last time you were doing this, say, assignment, that you told it not to write things in a certain way, and it will just remember that automatically. So it's really, really fantastic at doing memory. I find that it's the best tool for writing actually because of that memory feature. Uh, Fantastic model. It's probably the best engineer out of all the models today, although that could change tomorrow. But it's the best engineer, very strong coding skills, and it does have that agentic capability where the application called Codex can actually run your entire machine and perform any task that you would normally do. Claude is really a workhorse. It's a little bit strange because it doesn't have as many features as some of the other models. So it doesn't have, for example, the ability to generate images. It doesn't do deep research as well. But one of the things that they focused on was being the best developer tool. And the byproduct of that is that it also became the best at doing real work. So if you're trying to process massive amounts of files that are on your hard drive, it will go and process 1,000 files, files that are megabytes or gigabytes in size. It doesn't really care about what's on your hard drive. With something like Cowork and Claude Code, those two tools are able to do just about anything. They really started computer use the ability of the tools to be able to run a virtual computer to handle tasks. And so it's a fantastic way to work. I'll show you some examples of that. Best It's the best coder slash designer. Um, a few weeks ago, they released a new model called Fable, part of their Mythos family. That is actually the best coder, but they had to take it down. The US government asked them to take it down. And I'm sure ChatGPT will come up with a new model, hopefully this week. But for a while, for a week, it was the best coding model as well. It is a fantastic tool. If you ask me what I use every day, it is Claude Code, Claude Cowork, in combination with an open cloud, which I'll show you later what that is. Then there is a combination of Google Gemini and NotebookLM. Those two are related. At Stanford, Gemini is probably one of the best tools that you can use because it's one of the few tools that allows you to share with other people at Stanford. The difference between Gemini and Notebook is Gemini is like the other models, like the other chatbots. They allow you to create Canvas tools to create all kinds of things, but it has very strong connections with Google services. So think about everything that Google gives you access to. They give you access to Google Maps, Google Hotels, Google Flights, any kind of business data, information about any business in the US. Everybody walks around with Androids gathering data for Google. So street level data. It is really good at connecting to things like YouTube. If you have to find a video of somebody speaking on a specific topic, you can ask it to give you time codes of where they said something, and it will find you lots of videos. It's really good integrated with Google. The other thing that it's really good at is integration with NotebookLM, which is a fantastic research tool. You can ask it to gather tons of data and hold it, and it becomes a corpus of knowledge that is shareable with anybody else in your team, and that connects directly into Gemini, and you can work with it. It's actually, to me, I think the best overall tool that you have at Stanford in terms of capabilities. Also, they have the most APIs where I said Claude doesn't have an image generator. Gemini has just about the best image generator that you can get. It also has a video generator, the only tool that you can actually upload a video into, and it can process, it can transcribe the video, and you can ask it to work with the video directly. So NotebookLM, a fantastic tool, pairs really well with Gemini for the generic sort of group of Stanford. Overall, I think is probably the best combination. Then there's M365 Copilot. If you are using obviously a Microsoft set of tools, then it is going to be the best thing to use if you're primarily working on Microsoft projects. At Stanford, it is also allowed to use personal health info, and it is an upsell. So a lot of people don't have it, but a lot of people in Stanford Medical do have it. So I'll show you really quick one of the things that it lets you do that's very unique. Um, where did my tabs go? I think I hid my tabs somewhere. So hold on a second. Okay, so now, okay, so here we are. in M365 Copilot. So what it does, so Copilot gives you the ability to connect to all of your work data, which means that you can ask a question like this. I am meeting with, and if you hit the slash button, you'll be able to see the list of people in your organization. You can pull up anyone in your organization and you can say, we're going to be talking about a specific document. So you can think about if you are primarily a Microsoft sort of house, all your Teams meetings are going to be transcribed and stored in here, and this tool will have access to that. I used it to do my annual review where I just asked it, what the heck did I even do last year? And it was able to pull all the jobs that I did last year, assemble it all into my annual review process, and it just gave me a fantastic outline of everything that I did because it has all that information in it. So if you have it, is one of the best tools, but not everybody has this at Stanford for dealing with data. Um, so M365 Copilot, if you have it, but it is an upsell. It doesn't come automatically. Now, in terms of how you can use these tools, there's two divisions. When you want to work with Stanford data, data that you can't share outside the school, some tools are better for that particular use. As I mentioned, M365 Copilot, if you have it, is probably one of the best because it has access to all that internal data. Gemini combined with NotebookLM, I would say, are the second best. And that combination gives you the most access to be able to share things with others. However, some of the other tools are better at a lot of things, like I talk about Claude, for example, and how it can basically run your computer. ChatGPT with Codex can do the same. So some things are, some things that, where you can work on non-Stanford data, you can use some of those tools. But when you're working with Stanford specific data, PHI specifically, personal health info, that's something that you have to use the Stanford approved tools. So there is a link right here to the tool matrix, which is also on the second slide where you can get all the information about what you can use in deep detail. And it does change often, so definitely check that out. All right. So I'm going to go over a lot of features of these AI tools that will show you some of the things that you can do with them. One of the things that I think people don't know that AI can do is they can actually understand images in a way that is amazing. So you can give it an X-ray and it will understand, what is wrong with that individual by just analyzing the X-ray. It does a fantastic job. It understands any kind of handwriting. It will clean it up. It will OCR it and it will convert it into text for you without any problem. It can understand things like diagrams, charts, graphs, anything that is visual. One of the things that people also don't know is that when you use the mobile version of the applications, you have access now to not just a photo camera, but a video camera that in real time can tell you about your environment. So you can point it at your car, it'll tell you what tire pressure you need to, fill your car at. It'll tell you what size engines you have, what model it is, et cetera, et cetera. You can go, I take it and I do my expense reports with it because I can just take photos of all my expense reports and I can say, I took my wife to this meal. Here's what I ate. Can you just extract the data, put it on a spreadsheet? And as I'm, doing other things, it can extract and aggregate that data. So that's something that you can do with the mobile devices that people might not know about. You can also have it translate things into multiple languages and understands just really any kind of images. So the vision capabilities are out of this world, and a lot of people don't take enough advantage of them. As I mentioned, Gemini is one of the few tools that is able to work with video. It's also able to generate video in many, many forms. So you can point it at a video, and it's going to tell you about the video. You can take your mobile device and point it at a video. It can also tell you about anything that's either just on YouTube or you can upload a video or audio file. I think it will do like a 2 hours worth of video, 20 hours worth of audio, and it will transcribe. It will also extract data from there. It's the only tool that gives you that. Usually, Gemini gives you a lot more capabilities also than other tools because they have so many APIs. You can also generate videos with VO, now called Omni, and you basically feed those tools a number of different inputs, and it can generate pretty amazing video with audio as well, special effects and music as well. So music generation, by far, I think Gemini gives you the most out of anyone out there. You can use NotebookLM is a fantastic tool for creating, sets of data that are shareable. So I'm going to pull up a notebook here and show you that let's see, Vision Maps. This is a notebook, and basically you feed it a lot of data that can be internal data or external data. You can connect it to say like your YouTube channel, and you can ask it, tell me what's been performing well, what categories of videos have been performing well in my YouTube channel. It can give you that answer. It can also look at other channels and give you comparative analysis. It can dig through all that data. The nice thing about this tool is that it is shareable even when you're working within the Stanford platform. So when you hit share, you can find people in at Stanford and share this notebook with others. And that means that you are not just creating, a folder full of data, but you're creating a corpus of knowledge that everybody can kind of base their questions on. You can ask questions here, and the questions are always going to be grounded on the data sources. And it has a number of different exports. So you can ask it to create a video out of that. You can ask it to create an audio podcast in interactive mode, which is pretty cool. So here I can ask it questions. So I can ask it to create a podcast, and I can also ask it to let me join into the podcast and ask the guests, the artificial intelligence hosts, ask them any questions about any of the data that I have preloaded in here, and it will go look through the data and give you an answer using artificial intelligence to extract that. So if I play this, you'll see that it is just two people talking.
If you look up a recipe for like a chocolate cake, reading the chemical breakdown of the baking soda reacting with the cocoa, well, it doesn't really tell you what it actually tastes like. You want the human experience of eating it.
Right, exactly.
And that exact tension between the raw technical data and the real human experience, that is the puzzle we're looking at today.
It is.
We have this stack of sources from the Byers Eye Institute at Stanford, including their YouTube metrics, some internal newsletters, and their
So here I can hit this join
and
button
the
and I
mission
can actually
today
ask
is
them
to
a
figure
question,
out what
sort
medical
of as
content
if it was a radio show and I was able to call into the radio show. So if I hit this join button, you'll see that it will actually let me join in the conversation.
actually resonates with. Oh, our listeners got something to share. Let's hear it.
And I have to hit allow. Now, when I do this, it's going to take it a second because it's got to look through the data sources that I gave it to find the answer for me. So it's going to take a second. So I'll say hit allow. I'll say, hey, can you tell me what are the most important topics being discussed in this YouTube channel? It's going to take it a second.
That is a great question. Looking at the Byers Eye Institute channel, a few key themes really jump out.
Yeah, it's not just random medical clips. There is a real strategy behind what they are posting.
Exactly. So one big pillar is the human element.
Okay, so you get the idea. You can actually invite artificial intelligence, people into a Zoom meeting, and they can do the same thing. You train them on some data, invite them to a meeting, and they can answer questions. Fantastic for doing any kind of research or just having somebody that does mock interviews is something that we have experimented before. So. Yeah, this is really a fantastic, useful tool, and it pairs extremely well. It has, as I mentioned, a number of different outputs. This is just one of the funner, I think, outputs that you can generate, but you can get a little bit more serious. You can hand it a research paper, and you can tell it extract all the tables as comma separated values. I want to grab all that data. Tell me about all the illustrations, create some QR codes for me out of some Excel spreadsheet that you have. It can do all those things. Fantastic at visual data, fantastic at extracting information and organizing information in a number of different ways. Plus, you can bring in this corpus of knowledge into Gemini and start doing interactive tools with it. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So Definitely, if you haven't had a chance to use Notebook, it is an amazing tool. Everybody that uses also will tell you that if you've used it before. Now you can see that with the Studio panel, I showed you the audio overviews. They also have video overviews now, mind maps, reports. So you can have it generate reports out of a number of different original data sources. Data tables is one of my favorites as well because it extracts structured data from something like a PDF or something where the data is just all over the place. It does do slides. One of the things that I found out recently is that you can actually tell them to create PowerPoints directly from the chat panel. It's a little bit hidden, but you could just say, hey, make me a PPTX, and it'll make you a PowerPoint directly about the data sources. And you can also tell it to do an Excel spreadsheet. Again, go into all these research papers, gather all the table information, and I want you to create a, multi-tabbed Excel spreadsheet that just extracts all the data from those sources and builds a new spreadsheet for me directly from the chat. Something they haven't really advertised yet, but something that you can definitely do pretty quick. And it does a really decent job with the slide decks. Let's see. Another thing that you can do is once you have that data, you can create tools with that data using natural language. These tools can also connect to your sources. So this is something, although I did this in Claude, this is something that you can do in Gemini. Gemini can connect to your files. So in this case, you would be connecting to that NotebookLM. You can upload a file by dragging a file into it. And in here, I gave it an OSHA guide, safety guide, and I asked it, hey, it would be great if we could create a checklist for people whenever they have a lab and they want to sort of check things off as they sort of start their labs. They can have something, a tool that they can use to do a checklist of the safety chemical hygiene plan in this case, or hazard communication based on this document. And it's able to build these tools. This is literally the prompt that I typed. In Google Drive, go find this OSHA safety guide. You can also be a little fuzzy if you don't remember what it was. I love that because I can say, I don't remember what the thing was called, but it had this thing in it. It's like how sometimes I remember things in movies. Like I don't remember what the actor was, but I remember that it had dinosaur in it. And then at the end, like the ship came out of the Earth into the White House. I literally did that search the other day. It was at the Earth's core. I was looking for that movie. I'm like, I don't remember anything, but at the end, the ship comes out of the Earth into the White House, and it can answer those kind of questions. But anyways, you can see here, I'm saying go in my Google Drive, find the OSHA Safety Guide PDF. I think it's in my AI samples folder. Summarize key compliance requirements. They build me an interactive checklist, using Canvas, and it will build this, and it will also be shareable with anybody else in your team. So you can start creating tools that help you do things as opposed to just getting questions answered. There's another feature called Canvas/artifacts, depending on where you do this. So in Google, it's known as Canvas. Google and ChatGPT, they're known as Canvas. In Claude, they're known as artifacts. I think this is actually Gemini right now. I'm not sure because I can't tell by just looking at it, but you can build fantastic dashboards to visualize data. You can ask it to build you slide decks from data sources. And the other advantage here is that you can ask it to add an artificial intelligence helper so that people don't just have access to the data, but they're able to ask questions by just typing questions in. If you do this in Gemini, because it has so many APIs, you can ask it to actually let you just ask questions with voice or to have a back and forth conversation with the tools. The stuff that you can do is just next level, and you don't have to know any programming. You just have to know how to prompt the tools and ask them to process the data in whatever way you want the data to be processed. So it's fantastic for building websites or dashboards or tools that you want to build. Another thing that is pretty popular is now in ChatGPT, you can ask it to gather information from an external source. And in this case, I'm asking it that I want maybe to relocate to this area. And I'm asking it to look through. So if we go to ChatGPT, I can show you this really quick. I think this is ChatGPT. So you can see it also creates images. And as I was telling Don earlier, when you ask ChatGPT to generate an image, it can do the research on what the image should actually say. So it will do deep research on what you ask it. So you don't have to be as precise, or you can be as precise as you want to, but you can say, I want something that explains this concept to me visually as an infographic, and it will build something like this. So create a hand, and this is literally the prompt, create a hand-drawn infographic. And what I did is I gave it a NASA technical manual, something that is extremely dense and hard for people to read. And I asked it, explain it to me as an infographic so that somebody, that doesn't understand doesn't want to read through this technical document, can understand this simply. And you can even tell it, explain it to me as if I were an 8-year-old, and it will simplify the information for you. But the cool thing is that you don't have to know all the details. You can ask it just a question, and it will first do research and then visualize and then give you the infographic. You can also, it's really good at modifying it. So you can say, okay, I don't really need that third item on the fourth number here. So on number 4, I want you to get rid of these two maybe panels right here, and it will redesign and readjust that design to make it work. So it can be very good at editing, not just creating, as you can see right here. And I think I was showing you the apps. So the apps feature in ChatGPT is really special. This is actually something that is coming everywhere else, but apps allows you to connect with external tools that, for example, will let you check for trails. There are other tools that will let you check with specific data sources. So if you want to check with research paper sources, um, let's see, we can type in a search here. So research data sources and ask questions of legal research databases and things like that. And what will basically happen is it's going to import a copy of the website into your ChatGPT, let you ask questions. The answers become part of your normal ChatGPT conversations. Also, they will become part of the stored knowledge within ChatGPT. So in the example that I'm giving you here, I'm asking, find me all the houses within a certain area that meet this criteria, and it's able to basically put a copy of Zillow inside my ChatGPT, let me use Zillow, and then continue to ask questions in normal ChatGPT. That I'm not sure why I haven't seen it anywhere else, but this is coming everywhere soon because this format that they have built for importing apps is an open format that we'll see other people adopt. But ChatGPT did it first, so good for them. All right. Another thing that you can do is you can set up tasks that are executed on a schedule. So you can ask for stock market research, NIH funding proposals. I'll show you some other examples later on, and it will just go do something every day at 9 a.m. It will gather that data for you and then give you a report. You can ask it to save that data into a spreadsheet if you want to, and aggregate it, into a spreadsheet that you can check on later on. So I love using this feature. You can ask it to propose some social media posts that you might do. And I'll show you some other examples. One thing that I obviously do a lot of is recording videos. The video recorder tools that use artificial intelligence are also next level. They allow me to clean up any audio. So they have this thing called studio sound. I live in Florida, so I always have a fan running. I have a fridge behind me. My air conditioning unit is right outside this door, so it kicks on and off. The tools will detect when anything like that happens, and it will take care of adjusting the sound so my sound sounds amazing. The other thing that it does that I use all the time is actually correct words. If I screw up and I forget, I say something singular when I meant to say it plural, I can actually edit the word with text. You can see that when it imports as text. So all I do is I grab, say, a word here, and I just make it plural, and it will modify my lips so that it draws an extra frame so it looks like I'm saying the word, or it will just sound exactly like me. You can't really tell that it's not me. It'll also create avatars of you if you want to, although that's a little bit too much for me. Fixes eye contact. So if you don't have a prompter like I do, and you're kind of looking over here to the side, It will fix your eyes so that it looks like you're looking at the screen if you want that to happen. I tell it like if you're doing a podcast with somebody and they've done a lot of ums and ahs, it'll clear all those out with artificial intelligence. It basically saves me like 80 to 90% of the normal editing that I would have to do on a project. And I record for 2 or 3 hours, and out of those 2 or 3 hours, I end up with like a 10-minute video, and most of that compression happens because of these AI tools. So it's pretty amazing what they can do. They also have image generation tools, all these kind of things that you can do pretty amazingly. So now, as I mentioned, the tools can also do something called agentic operating systems. And this is useful for when you are trying to process a massive amount of data. So this happens to be Claude, and this is a tool in Claude called Cowork. So this is not the website. Imagine the files that I'm using for this particular project are really big. So if you happen to click on source here, it'll take you to the website where I gathered this data. These are like 230 megabyte files, and there's a bunch of them. So to process this data about vital statistics, I could not do that on a website. I would not want to upload 10, 200 megabyte files. The First of all, Claude would not let me do that. There's limits to how many files you can upload. There's limits to how big they can be. Even NotebookLM has a limit of like 100 documents, and they can't be more than, I think, like 50 megabytes. Uh, Something that runs on your own computer doesn't care how big your files are. Also doesn't care how many there are. So it can go through 2,000 files that you want to do something with, maybe generate some descriptions of each one of the files. Maybe you want to create a tool that indexes those and lets you search through them, highlighting the ones that have, the dinosaur or the at the Earth's core, the thing coming out of the White House. Like you need to find a file. You need to look through 10,000 files. Claude, Cowork, and Codex can do that by just running from your local hard drive, as opposed to you having to upload these massive data files. And that's how I build particular this particular analysis. I told it, I have these huge data files. I downloaded them from this website. Can you analyze the data and find any potential interesting connections that a normal research may have missed? The interesting thing is that these tools are very good at pattern recognitions, and they will often find things that you did not think of asking. They're very good at recognizing dark data and highlighting connectors and connections that you may have not seen by looking at it. It's a top tier coder, so it can build fantastic analysis from these original files. So if you want to take a look at, there's links right here so that you can take a look at this actual dashboard that it built for me based on that Natalie data that was hundreds of a bunch of documents that were probably like gigabytes of data. So that is the agentic operating system. As I mentioned, you can have it generate automations on your computer or just run things on a schedule. So that is what we call the autonomous agents. And now we're getting into the science fiction, things that you're not allowed to do at Stanford, especially with Stanford data, run on any Stanford computer. But this is the sci-fi stuff that you're going to be doing really soon. And I'll show you some examples of how they're emerging in platforms that you already have access to. So I run what we call an autonomous agent, runs 24/7. I have a bot named Otis, named after Lex Luthor's assistant in Superman 1 and 2, one of my favorite movies. So if I pull up my Telegram, you can see my bot Otis does a number of things for me. So for example, one of the things that I did is I had a class yesterday and I had them fill a pre-class survey, and I asked it, hey, just connect, because I can connect it to Canvas. Canvas has an API connection. I just told it, hey, I don't want to Canvas interface. I hope nobody hears from Canvas. It's really bad. So it's hard to find things. You have to click on 50 things to get the data that you need. But because my bot is connected to the data, I can just ask it a question like, hey, tell me about how people filled out that survey. How is the class, align with my syllabus? and it's able to tell me the results of that query. So my bot is going to go check on the Canvas API, retrieve how people filled it out, and it's going to give me some information about how it feels. They're comfortable maybe directing software. Kind of there's different levels of that. So the class is right on target with the syllabus. That's great. That's what I wanted to hear. But it's able to do that analysis, and it can do that. I was doing that often, but I can actually tell it, okay, like every day at 9 a.m., I want you to make an analysis of how things are working on my class. I can have it, give me all kinds of stats on students and stuff like that. And you can see that I use these autonomous agents to do most of my work. I told you that I do most of my work in Claude, but then I also have a digital assistant, again, Otis. I also have another one called Slim. That one checks on Otis, basically. And basically, this allows you to do a number of different tasks. So for me, I have it read all the newsletters that I subscribe to. I don't want to read them. And I created a set of rubrics that tell it, hey, when you read all the newsletters, just kind of highlight the things that you think I want to pay attention to. And just even do a top 5 things that I should probably write about this week. So it will analyze all of the newsletters, read all the articles for me, use this rubric to assemble a list of things that I should be doing this week. It can also look through and let's see what else it does. It actually also keeps track of all my social media performance, and it creates a separate rubric so that when I write something, I tell it, this is what I wrote. Can you check it against the things that have performed well in the past? And let me know if there's anything I could do to rewrite it to make it more successful based on my past performance. The other day, I asked it a question like, what happens when I add a photo to a post? Does it actually make a difference? And I know that if you were to ask that question of social media, they would tell you, yes, it's a big difference. Always add a photo. But what I wanted to know is for me, is it actually making a difference now in the age of AI, with everybody is kind of looking at images and go, oh, these are just AI generated images? Did it matter for me? The answer was slightly, not enough to make a big difference. But because it keeps track of all my stats on anything that I post on LinkedIn or on X, it was able to answer that question on a personal level and tell me, based on the stats that I'm seeing out of keeping track of all your posts and all the metrics, I can for sure tell you how it works for you. So those are the kind of things that Otis does for me. I create a canvas. You can see some examples here of the tools. I'll show you in a minute that I have this thing called the content pipeline and a tool called Obsidian. So Obsidian is basically where I do all my work. So let me show you that really quick. Remember, science fiction, you can't do this today. But I'll show you what you're going to be doing in the future. Why isn't my Obsidian showing up? Obsidian, Obsidian, Obsidian. It's probably behind something. It's probably hiding somewhere. Rats. Yeah, my Obsidian is hiding somewhere behind something. So somehow I can't show it to you right now.
Ask AI to find it.
Yeah, right? I don't know why it's not showing. No, let me quit it. It's somewhere. I just can't see it. Try rerunning it again. If not, I'll just have to show you a picture. I see it in the back. Okay, here we go. So Obsidian is how I do everything. Basically, it's just an editor, just a text editor. But what Otis does for me is keeps track of what I call my content pipeline. These are all the things that I'm currently doing. So I run a couple of series on artificial intelligence called AI Model Trends, as well as AI Trends. So if I go into that, you'll see all the list of videos that have been published, the videos that I'm writing right now. So right now I'm working on this GLM 5.2 Max video, and I work with AI to write this as well and organize it. It knows the structure of this document. But as I work through this document, I can ask Otis to let me know where it is. And when I'm done, it'll move it onto this done section. And there's other things that I do here. So for example, I write my social media in here. Here's the list of things that I'm going to be covering soon. Also, here's my list of things that it read from my newsletters and my top 5 that it thinks I should pay attention to. And when I go into one of these, it'll show you Here's the sources based on the newsletter articles that I've been reading for you. These are the things that I think you should pay attention to. It also identifies potential things that I might find interesting in terms of new tools that I have a website called vibit.work where I publish tools that I find interesting. So basically it looks through the internet, finds interesting things, and if I want to put them on my website, I move it into the schedule it section, and it will automatically pick this up and publish things for me on the website as well. So it's a really fantastic way to work. This is kind of what it does. It has posts, courses, top 5 trends, key AI trends, candidates for my website, and things that I want to go ahead and push and schedule. And this is where I live all week. Um, so that's what Otis does for me. The pipeline that I use is something called OpenClaw. I talked to it through, you saw Telegram and how I was able to talk to it and ask it to do things for me. And basically, I can have it schedule to do certain tasks every day, and I can just give it work to do, and curate tasks for me. So it actually learns as I tell it I don't like this or I do like this. It actually updates my metrics and my the files that I told it so that it knows how to make me a better writer by knowing again the data about what works and what doesn't. So this is where I live all week. And it's a really fantastic tool. So another thing that I do is I do a lot of user testing. So I'm a developer. I build a lot of websites. So this can be useful for other things. So basically, the browsers now have this agentic features where I can ask them to go through and this is a website that I build that creates MVP documents, minimal viable products for building websites. And basically, I can tell it, go through this form, fill it out 10 times for me, try to break it, see if there's anything that's not working in the process. Then give me some feedback about what you liked, what you didn't like as I'm developing this website. And then if you found anything that was broken, I want you to write a prompt for my coding platform to fix the problems that you found. Give it some good feedback. So anytime you need to fill out a lot of forms and you want to pretend that you are 1,000 different people, 100 of them which are really trying to break your website or really trying to screw up the form, you can ask these tools to just run basically a simulation hundreds or thousands of times and then give you a lot of feedback, tell you how to fix them, what you should do differently. It can absorb different personas. So that's what I tell it. Pretend you're a doctor, pretend you're a lawyer, pretend you're building a game and try to fill these things out so it can do that at scale. Here is an example of what I was showing you earlier, that my autonomous bot is able to just look through my canvas to take care of tasks for me as well. And I can ask it any question about any student, or if I don't remember something, I could just, instead of going to Canvas, I can just have it manage my class through there. In addition to that, this is the tool that I was going to show you so although you can't use right now the tool that I'm using called OpenClaw or Hermes, um, Gemini is actually getting a version of this. It's called Spark. Um, Copilot is getting something called Scout, same thing. They are more secure versions of OpenClaw, and what they can do is run things at scale. So here I told it, I'm actually going to find this one so you could see what it did. Once again, I have too many things running, so I need to find the other window. So I need to find this window. All right, so I'm going to go into Gemini to show you. Where is my Gemini? Is it this one? Yeah, so Gemini has this tool. Now, this is not in the Stanford version of Gemini yet, but I imagine in a few months you'll be able to do this. This is on my personal Gemini. It's kind of a new tool, so it's still on beta testing mode. So it's even difficult for a normal person to have it. But if I switch over to Spark, I can give it a task like this. I can say, okay, when a new FDA approval for a major study lands in glaucoma, macular degeneration, or diabetic eye disease, flag any of our pages on our website. And I want you, that might be out of date, right? And then I want you to give me a weekly report group by page. I want you to create a spreadsheet, track these things so that we can now route them over to the proper person to fix those things. So this is able to then create a tracker for me, which it identified different pages on our website, on the Buyers Eye Institute website actually, where because of some updates in the medical industry that were recently announced some of these pages are now out of date, and I need to make sure that that gets handled in the near future so that our website can be up to date. Not our website, the website for the Buyers Eye Institute. That is basically what my OpenClaw does for me, but it's already being activated in Gemini Spark as a tool that you can describe a number of tasks to. And the tasks, because I think you guys have such a great, um, you know, a great sort of ability to run Gemini things, eventually you're going to have this. If you're in Copilot, you're going to get Scout. Scout is a direct descendant of OpenClaw, which is my Otis, what I call Otis. So this capability of running things at scale, running thousands of user tests over a period of time, is something that you're going to get by the end of the year for sure, if not earlier than that. And you're going to be able to do these kind of automated tasks at scale. And what it does is it just gives you the ability of doing things that you've never been able to do before, that you would not even attempt to do before. So for me as a developer, I can program faster, running at superhuman speeds. Last December, as I mentioned, I was doing like 100 commits with 17 major features, on a website. I think on a normal week for me back in the 90s, it would have taken me like a week to do a form. I can do that in like 10 seconds now by just communicating with the AI tools. So everybody's going to get superpowers very soon. And I don't think it's going to change, um, the need for human beings. I think it's going to change how much you can do and how much better the things that you do are. Instead of writing something, you will have done 10 pieces of research by just asking the computer, hey, I want you to do some research on this topic. I'm writing about this topic, so I want you to find out what the latest sort of top people in the industry are saying. You're going to get that answer almost immediately, and you'll be better informed to do the work that you do.